Morning, Brian. How are you? Welcome back, everybody, to a chat with Brian. We're going to talk about a very interesting topic today, vaping. Now, just before we go into the topic, I did a podcast a while ago and I interviewed someone from America, and they also interviewed me. And the general consensus about vaping in America was, of course, that it's bad in inverted commas. So I'd like you to introduce the real evidence. Should the real Slim Shady step forward?
For those who are interested, you can read on the parliamentary website the paper I tabled over a year ago, 1,400 pages of research.
1,400?
1,400 pages of research, which showed, first of all, that vaping is 95% safer than smoking tobacco.
Wow, that goes against...
And the calculations of which suggest that if we allowed vaping in Western Australia, we would save 200 West Australian lives every year.
So why aren't we?
Well, I'm still struggling to find the answer to that because the science is very, very clear. Vaping, regulated vaping with regulated ingredients is safe. But the government has banned that and opened the door, if you like, to the illegal vapes coming in from China. Look, I'll give you an example. The regulated vapes here had 5 milligrams of nicotine. Okay, and 3 chemicals which were regulated and we know they're safe.
Yes.
Okay, the Chinese stuff coming in has 50 or 60 milligrams of nicotine per vape. Yeah, that is highly addictive. But the chemicals they've got in there, you do not want to have. Those vapes are toxic. Those vapes should be banned. They are dangerous. But I've got 8-year-old children vaping in the school toilets with those vapes. There's a catastrophe happening for the future. Okay, and it's been created by a government which has banned regulated vape industry. Okay, where it's like alcohol. Your children, an 8-year-old can't go into the bar and buy a beer. Can't. Okay, same thing with the vape shops. No, you can't have that. And it's a much lower dose, and the chemicals are much safer. We know this. The science shows that. So the government has gone against the science, and someone somewhere is profiting. Look. I prescribe cannabis in my medical practice.
Yes, you do.
And some of that is actually in dry herb form. Mm-hmm. And the classical way of using that is the worst way of taking cannabis is to smoke it.
Yep.
Don't do that. Okay? Safer than smoking tobacco, mind you, but still, don't do that. Vaping is far, far, far better. But we can't access the vapes that we need to use the dried herb because the government has made it impossible to find. Now, the health minister promised me she wouldn't do this. Twice in Parliament on questions. She promised she wouldn't do that. And that's what's happened.
Amazing.
So now they come to me and I say, listen, vaping is actually much safer. And they say, oh, it's not, it's dangerous. So they have listened to the government propaganda, the false information, and they believe what they're being told by the government, that vaping is bad. And they're only getting a part of the story.
That's right.
So now they say, we'll smoke the cannabis instead. So what? It's ridiculous. So someone somewhere is benefiting, and I don't know who. It certainly isn't me. But I'm wondering if the tobacco companies may have seen that the numbers are going down. In New Zealand, for example, smoking is going down.
Yes.
Vaping is allowed, smoking is going down. So the profits for the tobacco companies are vanishing.
But
also the tax for the government is being reduced.
Yes.
I wonder if we can connect the dots. Do you think?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I think a 5-year-old could connect those dots.
Oh, dear God. But look, this is an example for what's happening in government. Truth does not matter. It's a perception of truth.
It's perception of truth.
And look, we had the debates about voluntary assisted dying, about the passionate sides, each arguing for that. But truth won in the end, I think. Okay, the legislation against homosexuality back in the early 80s, 21 years in prison you could get for being homosexual.
Yeah,
21 years in prison. That was a law. It was legal to put people in prison for 21 years for being gay.
For a preference.
Wow,
that's amazing.
So. We need to look at what legislation is passing through Parliament and examine it. Is it actually true? For example, the THC driving laws are based on a lie.
They are.
Okay, they're not even testing for THC; they're testing for a metabolite.
Yeah.
Okay, and then even more. Look at the international laws regarding cannabis. State that cannabis is actually a narcotic. which is a pharmacological lie.
Yes, it is.
International laws saying that it's a narcotic. The national laws are based on that lie. The state laws are predicated on that lie as well. So the whole structure of our anti-cannabis legislation is based on a lie.
On a lie. That's
How many more lies are there in legislation?
I wonder, and considering there are reams and reams and reams of paperwork, I wonder who's really going through all of this, bit by bit.
Well, look, I mean, one of the problems we're facing is that people in society don't really care about politics. They're seeing politicians as liars, as cheats, and I can see why.
I can see why, if lies are being passed as laws.
So they're disengaged, disenfranchised, and a lot of people are voting. I used to vote like this. Who do I hate least? I'll put them first. And work my way down. Who do I hate most? They're last.
They're last,
okay?
Yeah. I think I voted the same.
Yeah, a lot of people do that. And I don't blame people for doing that, because, look, what are we looking at in politics? It's not helping the people.
It's not. They're still suffering, still struggling. I mean, we have the same issues we did, how many years ago would you say? We've got the same issues that we had 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000s.
If you want a good sleep, check out some of my speeches. A few months back, I asked the question in Parliament. I said, look, in the last, say, 30 years, looking back over 30 years, legislation passing through every single year, tons of legislation. 30 years ago and today, I looked him in the eye and I said, are we any better than we were 30 years ago? Are we better off? Are we feeling better? Has violence gone down? Has society improved?
That's it.
And I looked around, there's a kind of a pause, I looked around. They knew.
No.
We've passed for over, now it goes beyond 30 years, but let's take 30 years as a kind of
let's go with
as a lifetime, okay?
Yeah.
We're not better off. No. The laws that we are making are not serving the people.
Not at all. No, they're not. And you know what? What is the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing again, getting a different outcome. Einstein, yes.
And expecting a different outcome and getting the same. And so is that what we're saying about politics?
I think the simple thing is that if you look at this side here, look at that side there, they're both the same. They get into Parliament and they say we're different, but we're not. The advisors are the same, the system is the same.
Yep.
What we need is for people to think differently.
Yes.
And people looking at the old that you voted before, your parents voted here and they've always voted that way, and you're going to carry on like that. Do you really want more of the same?
And imagine what it'd be like having a vote for our party, because we think differently. Imagine if everyone voted for us, we could change the laws.
Well, we could indeed. But the point I would put out is, it's not just about don't vote for them, vote for us. The point I am saying is, look at who you're voting for and ask yourself the question, is this serving the people?
Exactly.
Is it serving us? And if the answer is no, we've then got to take the courage in our hands and think differently.
Outside the box.
A whole host of other parties there, of those who are capable, who are worthy of your vote. Now, I would put out there that we are. We're the party of fiscal sensibility. We know where the money can come from because we can create a multi-billion-dollar business. If we stop worrying about THC, that whole hemp industry, multi-billion-dollar, offsetting our balance of trade with the iron ore. We could do that.
Absolutely.
We could fund any number of hospitals and childcare and aged care. We could do that. Okay, we're also the party of law and order, which has justice in it, because the laws don't necessarily reflect justice, do they?
No, they do not.
So we're looking here for the justice in that, and that's who we are.
And what's the right thing to do? I mean, ask yourself, what's the right thing to do?
Well, the question is, are we being served by the current politicians? And the answer, I think, is no.
It's no.
Therefore, choose differently.
Yes.
And get engaged. Think about what you're doing.
Yes. Before you vote.
Yes, because we are your servants. We should be.
We're meant to be, yeah.
And I swore an oath, actually to God, when I came into Parliament, that I would serve the people of Western Australia.
Absolutely.
And I have done my utmost to serve the people of Western Australia. But I look at my colleagues who serve the parties first, and the people, I think, last.
Just got a hypothetical for you. Imagine you're a vapor. The costs are going up. You're addicted. What do you do?
Well, you're speaking to a doctor as well as a politician.
Yes.
I have the ability now to prescribe nicotine vapes because you can only get them from the pharmacy.
Okay.
The pharmacists, I've spoken to the pharmacists, they are deeply upset. They don't want to get involved in this. Okay? And the vapes that they can use are not being advertised. The people don't know how to use them. There's no education on how to use them. The vape shops would teach you all about how to be safe with this. They can't do that. And the pharmacy has got to spend time and effort in doing something they're not actually equipped for, nor do they want to do that. But me, I can prescribe that. How? I need to put in an SASB application.
What's that?
Well, the government says it's an unapproved product here. I need to actually take the responsibility for writing a request to government, please may I have this unapproved product. Which means that I now take responsibility for your health if things go wrong.
How's that working?
It takes time, because I've got to sit there on the computer and do that. It's not any, look, if anyone's worked on a government computer site, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay? So it goes there, and I get the approval to coming back. Look, they're not going to disapprove it, but it has to happen. Okay? And then, with that script, I can give that to the pharmacy, who's then got to give just this. And it can't be flavoured. It's just so you're just giving the nicotine to reduce, which is a reasonable thing to do. But people were doing this anyhow in the vape shops.
They were, yeah.
Okay, so now we've made it more complicated, more difficult, more expensive.
Yes.
Okay, with people who just don't want to do it, the pharmacists and indeed the doctors. So what are people going to do who are vaping and addicted to tobacco? They're going to go into the shop and buy cigarettes.
Exactly. And you know what? So if I'm addicted and I need to get a prescription because I want to, you know, I want to quit smoking. I'm vaping for that reason. I know that it's better for me. What else can I do, Brian? What are some of my avenues?
I think the only solution, look, we know that the months this has been in place, the government knows that they've made a huge error. They know that.
They know that, okay.
And they know that the alternative is to get the vapes you can get at a cheaper price under the table. We know what the danger is for you, but look, you're addicted, you're going to use that. Because the government has made it almost impossible, well, impossible, it's made it more difficult to get it through the medical route. So you're going to take the easy route. Like going into a shop and buying some tobacco, let's go into a shop and buy a vape. Okay? This is what we've been given by a government which doesn't really care about the science or indeed the people.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. That was our talk on vapes. That was our episode on vaping. You've been listening to a chat with Brian Walker. Please subscribe. Please get on the website. Please tell us, like us, do what you need to do. Please become a volunteer. Think outside the box. And we'll speak to you next time.
And remember, vote 1, legalise cannabis.
Vote 1, legalise cannabis.
Authorised by F. Mulholland, Legalise Cannabis, WA.